Shalom Mishpacha family, and welcome back to part 2. Before we dive into the deep chronology of this history, I want to establish total transparency. We're not operating like the world does. I don't expect you to take second-hand information at face value. I want you to verify every single claim and reach a point of inner standing. Right now, a full ledger of every scripture, historical text and manuscript used in this breakdown is on your screen. Take a moment right here to pause the video, grab a pen or take a screenshot so you can follow along or fact check these sources on your own. Let's get stuck in. So, to completely understand how our heritage was stolen, we need to establish an ultimate historical anchor point. The earthly ministry of our Messiah Yahushua walking the dirt of Judea around 30 CE. Everything we break down today will be measured from this exact timeline. Let's look backwards from our anchor point. To understand why the temple looked like a den of thieves when Messiah arrived, we have to look at the strict structural instructions Yahuwah gave regarding the priesthood in Exodus chapter 28 verse 1 and Numbers chapter 3 verse 10. Yahuwah commanded that only Aaron and his biological seed line would hold the office of high priest, declaring that any stranger, meaning anyone outside that specific genetic lineage, even other Levites who came near the office, would be put to death. This priesthood was locked down as a perpetual genetic statute in Numbers chapter 25 verses 12 to 13 through Aaron's grandson Phinehas as an everlasting covenant. During the reigns of David and Solomon, this high priestly office was funneled exclusively into the line of Zadok in 1 Kings chapter 2 verse 35 because the other priestly branch fell short. The prophet Ezekiel in chapter 44 verse 15 and 16 confirms that only the sons of Zadok were authorized to approach the altar because they stayed faithful when Yasharel went into error. Now let's look at the timeline. Roughly 180 years before the Messiah's ministry, in 152 BCE, following the Maccabean revolt, a non-Zodokite branch of the Levites executed a calculated inside job. The ruling Hasmonean family belonged to the tribe of Levi, but specifically to the priestly course of Jehoiarib. 1 Chronicles chapter 24 verse 7, 1 Maccabees chapter 2 verse 1. Jehoiarib was a legitimate priestly course for temple rotation, but they had no genetic right to the high priest office. They possessed a deep-seated generational motive to seize top-tier status. Instead of reinstating the true Zodokite seed line that was still alive and available after the war, the Hasmoneans exploited the national crisis. They illegally combined the political throne with the supreme spiritual office of high priest. 1 Maccabees chapter 10 verses 15 through to 21. In direct protest of this spiritual coup, the true Zodokite priests broke away. They fled into the wilderness of Qumran, took the pure records with them, and became the Essenes, the caretakers who hid what we now know as the Dead Sea Scrolls. To track the deep corruption that followed this initial inside job, we turn to the most famous historian of that era, Flavius Josephus. Let's clear the historical lens before we carry on. Flavius Josephus is a completely Romanized name. He was actually born in 37 CE, roughly 7 years after our Messiah's resurrection. He was a high-ranking priest from the tribe of Levi, whose true Hebrew name was Yosef ben Matityahu. He was a direct biological descendant of this exact Hasmonean line through his mother, and in his autobiography, The Life of Flavius Josephus, section 2, he states that as a youth he went into the desert to study directly with the Essenes. Though Joseph was born into this compromised Hasmonean lineage, he witnessed the total destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE as a divine judgment, causing him to blow the whistle on his own family's history. Because he was an elite temple insider whose writings were preserved under Roman patronage, his books, Antiquities of the Jews and the Jewish War, provided unshakable legal receipts. In Antiquities of the Jews, Book 13, Chapter 9, Section 1, he documents that around 125 BCE, the Hasmonean ruler John Hyrcanus conquered Edomia, the biblical land of Edom, and forced the Edomites to adopt Judean laws, writing that, quote, they became entirely Jews, unquote. This is the exact moment the identity theft scaled up. The seed of Esau completely absorbed the identity of Yasharel while retaining their distinct bloodline. Moving forward on the timeline to 37 BCE, just 70 years before our Messiah's earthly ministry, the Roman Empire exploited this integrated, compromised population. They appointed an Edomian named Herod the Great as, quote, King of the Jews. A literal son of Esau was placed on the civic throne of Jacob. To understand the absolute spiritual toxicity of the environment our Messiah stepped into, look at what Herod did. He was so terrified of the true seed line that, as recorded in Matthew chapter 2 verse 16, he ordered the systematic slaughter of all male infants in Bethlehem under 2 years old in a desperate attempt to assassinate the Messiah. To secure his total control over the nation, Herod targeted the altar next. As Yosef ben Metatiyahu documents in Antiquities of the Jews, Book 20, Chapter 10, Herod completely annihilated the remaining hereditary succession of the tribe of Levi. He executed the Hasmonean Levitican priests who had carried out the original inside job, completely breaking the last physical link to the biblical priesthood. Herod then began appointing entirely counterfeit political puppets to high priest position, based on financial bribes and Roman loyalty. This final corporate takeover created the aristocratic political class known during the Messiah's ministry as the Sadducees, specifically the corrupt house of Annas and Caiaphas. This explains the profound clarity behind Yahushua's words when he confronted them directly at our anchor point in John chapter 8 verse 44, declaring, Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He wasn't talking to true Yashreelites. He was exposing an elite counterfeit Edomite mafia occupying a hijacked temple administration.